of recovering a sense of strength based on the story I started yesterday about in 2019, how my identity was changed because for the first time in my life I stopped believing in what I could do. And I gave up on myself and pulled out of an opportunity to speak for the city of Hamilton, in fact. I got the opportunity at a gala and was asked to follow up a month afterwards, which I did, and submit a proposal, which I did, and attend meetings, which I did, and I got everything lined up, including chose the date for the workshop, which would have been May 30th, 2019, except in the lead up to it, my contract I was working ended. I did 8 DMT ceremonies in the months prior to that, plus a 3-week sacred sojourn that took me out to Vegas, Utah, Arizona, and California. Plus only had this one speaking engagement lined up, invested in a trip to Puerto Rico to connect with not the retreat runner or the woman running the retreat who I met at the event, but the man that she had hired to help her in promoting it all, and I wanted time with him, so I invested in her to get there. And because of everything that was going on in the 2 weeks prior to getting back from a trip where I'd felt shamed by the girl that I blamed for using me, not ever having paid me for the trip that I had invested in us to be able to go on, which she was supposed to pay me back from and never did, and then also shamed me for how I left, which all of the DMT ceremonies had activated energies that I was expressing, and there was an intense amount of energy out in California, plus with the group we were in. So all of those variables, plus there was a cruise that I got invited to help work, but had to pay in order to get in, a fraction of the price. But I also shared that with the group that I was with before then I left them to return home, and was alone because the two that I was out there with stayed with the group that I no longer was with, and so it very much felt like I had been ousted from the tribe, which I'm grateful for because there were energies being played with there that I wouldn't have wanted anything to do with, to be fair. And my grandma had had a heart attack right at the beginning of that 3-week trip where all of that was happening. So the scripts were totally flipped and things were crazy, and when I got invited to go on that cruise, it collided with the date of the one thing I had lined up, which was the speaking opportunity that I knew would be a great opportunity. It's just I also hadn't finished my book at the time, which so much of my identity had been vested in at that time, and so I really felt like a failure. And in recovering a sense of strength, it's interesting because Julia talks about how, you know, elephants are eaten one bite at a time. She uses different words, but basically, so oftentimes as creatives, especially blocked creatives, we think we need to scale the mountain in one leap or a few big leaps, when what we really need to do is just take the next step and the next step and the next step and the next step. And each of those small creative activities will get us where we need to go. So that was what I learned. You know, I could have went there, but I didn't want to rush myself, and I knew that they would be going faster than maybe what I wanted to go. So I just let a whole bunch of traffic go in front of me, and I'm totally good with that. And so we just have to really take it at our own pace, and also recognize that if I had have had more grace for myself, with myself, at the time when all of this was going on back in 2019, I wouldn't have had to pull out of this speaking opportunity for mental health reasons as I did, because I would have seen that I just needed to show up and do my best and offer the value that I had in my chest. My heart was where all of this had been brewing, and because I instead started stewing on what I hadn't done and all the mountains that I hadn't scaled, and then comparing myself to those who were getting paid good money to work jobs that I could have applied for. One of us is the picture with the embryo that is growing, and I didn't read the details specifically, but what I know is that I was not alone in where I was at. And as a blocked creative at the time, in fact, when I pulled out because I put so much pressure on myself, I divided instead of uniting within. Union Road is what prompts that cue. And I wanted to say in this message today that the opportunity to speak for the city of Hamilton would have been an absolute blessing. And not speaking for the city of Hamilton turned out to be a gift in disguise, which is also one of the sub-chapters, or one of the subsections in the chapter on recovering a sense of strength. Because in shattering my own self-image and self-concept, I had to reinvent myself, and I went into some incredibly dark places to do it. What's amazing that I've heard recently a couple different times in ways by different ones is the fact that the more light you embody, the more shadow you expose. And the closer you are to the sun, the longer your shadow is behind you. And so I say that because so often when questing for enlightenment, which was part of the reason that I did the 8 DMT ceremonies in ceremony with the shaman, because I was looking for my breakthrough and I got it. I just hadn't expected it to come the way it did, and it certainly wasn't comfortable when it did. And so oftentimes when we're questing for our breakthrough, when we're questing for enlightenment, to embody more light, we forget the fight within that we all must face as we heal the wounds of our past, which is where the shadow lies. I share all of these because I have grieved those losses, which are like miscarriages for the artist that I didn't realize I am or was at the time becoming, because I didn't have that identity, and so I didn't understand the need to support myself as a creative. I was just writing a book that I always say rewrote me before the world got to see the version of me I became through the journey, which is what artists become because of the art we put out in this world. And in the muffin book that I'm giving, the one I am going to see in the meeting that brings me here now on Now a Highway, I lost my train of thought. And I'm going to be graceful with myself because I did not come with a script. But what I wrote in the journal was that the greatest story ever written is hers. The greatest story ever written is yours. There's a rogue going beside me. I am a rogue one, so to speak. Divergent would be what my character would be called if I were to have been an actress in the, interesting, a man on the side of a highway road looking in a ditch. If I were to be in the movie, I would be casted as the outcast, the fringe dweller, the rogue one, the divergent one that doesn't adhere to a script I don't believe in if it's evil, which is live backwards, and I choose to live forwards, to look forward instead of focus in the back mirror, which would only draw near to me that which I left behind because I would not be focused on where I was moving to instead. If I were to stay focused on what I didn't do May 30th, 2019, as I did for a while, I'll be honest, I would not be moving forward the way that I am now. And so moving forward as I am now is the result of having looked in the rear view mirror for long enough to finally see the need to heal from that which defined me in a new way, so redefined me. And now I forgive myself have forgiven myself for, and in moments when I feel like maybe I should be further than where I am, I forgive myself then too, because I know that each of the steps that I take today are moving me toward that. Reflection is on the trailer camper van that I am driving by now, which is funny. We have to reflect on the journey that has brought us to the moment that we are in and have compassion for ourselves. The hawk flies over, which is all about focus, which is why I brought up looking forward or looking backwards. We can be the student, we can be the driver. Those are statuses. I'm looking at a corporate training solutions vehicle, the trailer of a truck that is representing the corporation of Fanshawe College, which is a great institution, and I have taken courses for their crisis intervention program because I wanted to get certified to the hilt so that I could be of the greatest value possible. And I took a domestic violence course and also one on, I took many. I've taken so many courses, I've paid for so much training, I probably couldn't even name to you all of it. Pilgrim Road. I don't see an L specifically, but that's because we need to see that we are either putting love into the situation or lies, and that is our choice. And why I say that I forgive myself for the opportunity I didn't take, and I am grateful because it is not a mistake I will make again in the future, willingly, if I can help it. And now I also understand from my belief system, BS, that the mental health system is a trap that is designed to convert men and women into patients and ones with diagnoses or labels that require us to change our self-image in order to conform to what it means to be one with that label that a professional gave. So it must be true, right? Wrong. Not necessarily, but we can have moments of dysfunction that someone would define as who we are. Just like the tribe we come from has seen all that we have been through to get here, and then they just focus on that instead of what here is leading to. Travel star, it is time for us to see that we are stars traveling through this realm, which is the planetation of Earth, which, if you actually spell Earth in a different way, reordered simply, you get heart. And that is where we must start. Living from, instead of the mind. What if the 18-inch fall, the gap was between the head and heart, and the fall out of Eden, the energy den of us, which we are the guard in? What if that fall was not actually out of heaven at all, for heaven is the heart center? And instead of falling out of heaven, we fell out of our hearts and landed in our heads by eating from the tree of knowledge, which gave us a ledge that we were told to know because others said that was the edge of where we could go. When the truth is, our intuition is the tuition our soul paid ahead of time to guide us through this life as us, the one and only original that there was or will be, that we need to do our best to self-actualize in, which is one one of the higher level motivational needs within Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of motivational needs that we have a chance to actually act on. And recognize respect comes before that. For we must have self-respect. We must respect ourselves enough to be able to take action and look forward and forgive ourselves for that which we did before. Forgive them for they know not what they do applies to you too when said by you, as it does me too. So, with all of that in mind, I would love to say that I got published, fully committed. The Sacred Sojourn of Now includes the sacred sojourn of the soul that we are all going through as the hero's journey from a soulful perspective that I was writing back then and finally got done. And also have a special practice that is a framework to be able to break down a self-care practice you can actually use that honors all of who and whose you are, without bringing in God, Allah, Source, Creator specifically, but wrapping all of those under the umbrella of energy. For that is what truth is, energy. And energy is resonant. That is why truth is resonant. That goes to Elmer, and I'm looking to go to the town that comes next, I do believe, so I need to put on my GPS. Because while my heart is the GPS that guides me through this life, the emotions are actually part of the languaging of that internal GPS, guidance system compass, that we must respect and be respectful too, so we can also hold space for others who don't necessarily know how they're going to do it, but feel that it is important and need to be supported in bringing forward that creative baby too, just as I have been sharing all of my mistakes in order to say, let us be more graceful with ourselves, because belonging comes before respect and self-actualization, and the tribe has always been used to keep the individual in line. But what comes before that are where we have been fixated collectively, intentionally, which is on safety and survival. Survival is actually the first subsection of the chapter on recovering a sense of strength, and what she says we need to know how to survive are our losses. Because if we don't grieve them, if we don't acknowledge them, and if we don't get back up after them, we're in trouble. And I see that where I need to be is in 1 kilometer from here, so now I will officially go and say to you, I wish you a blessed day. I wish you respect for yourself, and then you can give that to others too. Because if you don't respect yourself, there's no way that you can respect others. We can only give that which we have within. Have a good one. Toodaloo. LJeH. Namaste. I'm a go for today.